So Ethereum was first proposed by a very good young, I say intellectual person, because anyone who does it for the very first time, he's way ahead of his peer group. So it was proposed by Vitalik Buterin in 2013, and he is a Russian citizen. Now he has migrated to Canada. So he has done a lot of work in the area of cryptocurrency and Ethereum as such. So he started his work way back in 2013. Satoshi Nakamoto started blockchain in 2009. So after a gap of 4 years, he started working in the area of the cryptocurrencies. So just a fresh school dropout, not much solid base in engineering, but then his passion, his interest in cryptocurrency drove him. And now he is a billionaire. He settled in Canada, done a lot of work in the area of the mm, Ethereum and cryptocurrency. You can browse through his profile. It's called vitalik.ca. And he was the first person in the area of blockchain technology who proposed the concept of DePIN. It's called Distributed Public Blockchain Network, that enables the developers to build and deploy various dApps. dApps are the decentralized application. So he started two concepts. First is a creation, designing, development, and the deployment of the dApps, distributed, decentralized applications. And the network which has a nodes which supports the deployment of these dApps are called as a DPINs, distributed public blockchain network. That's how he gave the term as such. And since he started this concept very raw, now that it's very in the good stage, but initially 7 years back, it was all in the stage of infancy, bare ideas, crude ideas, but then the realistic ideas, because he was able to deliver the concepts. He was able to do what he actually thought of. Yes, this is how decentralized application work. So he started this work in a very small manner in the Russia, and small application he started deploying, and now it is spread across all over the world. The applications, variety of applications, and almost all the major cryptocurrency exchanges of the world are now on the part of the distributed public blockchain network. So it was his brainchild, it was his idea, and that let's go for it. Let's go for decentralized applications wherein the cryptocurrencies can easily be transacted on the web. So initially, Russia, China, Japan, Singapore became a part of it, and slowly now the entire world is a part of the cryptocurrency market. Now, there's a very popular cryptocurrency vendor called CoinMonk, and his perception of DePIN is that it can be deployed across a variety of networks. So, if you look at a broad section of the networks which are available today for the deployment of the cryptocurrency based application, peer-to-peer network was already there almost from 50 years, right from DARPANET and ARPANET, from 1970s, where you would have studied in the Tenenbaum book and the Verus Forozen book of networks when the OSI model came into being. So peer-to-peer network very much there. Then came this decentralized network where you have these header nodes, the master nodes, and then multiple number of the slave nodes or the leaf nodes. But when we talk of the distributed network, it comprises of almost all the network. It will have a decentralized network. It will further encapsulate the peer-to-peer network. So in the case of distributed network, there are clusters of nodes which are geographically located far apart from each other. So we don't require in distributed network that the nodes should be co-located. Co-located means they share their lat and long coordinate, latitude and longitude coordinates. The nodes can be spread far apart, maybe from states to countries to across planet, wherever the network are there, and they will exist in the form of one cluster. So I can have one cluster in South Africa and another cluster of node in Singapore, and the two of them can connect to each other using a remote location networks. So I can spread across a network across a multiple location, and the communication can happen either through fiber optic cable or through satellite communication, or maybe multiple number of the other coaxial. There are many number of the transmission medias nowadays. So even over the air transmission is happening very fast. So the connection can happen using microwave link or fiber optic link or satellite link anyway. But networks can be now no need to be co-located. They can be spread across far apart from each other. So that's what we call distributed. Distributed means you are sharing the information across multiple number of the location. Earlier, what used to happen, some of the third world countries were not a part of the global blockchain network. So isolation was there. But nowadays everything is connected. Almost all the major developer G5, G7, G15, G20 countries, and the very poor countries like Zambia, Nigeria, and Africa, they are also connected to each other. So information sharing is very fast. And what we use the word globalization. So the networks are connected to each other. The instant sharing of the information happen, and that we're also seeing in the case of the COVID. Moment one of the mutant is discovered in any of the small or big country, within few seconds the information is spread across entire globe. Almost all everyone has come to know about it, that this new mutant of the virus has got discovered at this particular location, and then the scientist can start working on the strategy how to combat that particular virus. So globalization is good, but there is also a pitfalls of the globalization, that if the world would not have been connected in such a better way, maybe the COVID-19 virus would not have spread in such a big way. Because if even at times isolation is good, because once you are cut off from the things, the virus will not reach you. So that's why we go for lockdowns. Matlab, means don't allow the people to intermingle with each other. So globalization has a positive points also. For if you're looking for industrialization, if you're looking for the blockchain spreading, creation of the network, globalization is good. But if you look from the COVID-19 point of view, if the world would have been fragmented, countries would have been not connected to each other, virus would not have spread the way it has done in the last 2 years. So everything has plus and minus for that matter. Also, we have got an other network like a completely decentralized network, isolated network, uh, completely like just like a centralized. Here, everything is located in one singular location. It is not connected to the other networks. One network good enough. For example, if I am creating a network of nodes in my own university at Dwarka campus, so I am creating my own. The vicinity is defined, the location is defined, and only I'm connecting all the departments of my university like USMS, USICT, US Law, this chemical technology, biotechnology. So these are the multiple nodes where I'm allowing the information to be shared among the nodes of the cluster. But yes, in a distributed, there is no limit. So theoretically speaking, there is no limit on the number of networks I can connect to. And these network can be connected if you're using a landline connection, I can use a router, switches, and gateways. Or if I'm using high-speed connection, I can use a fiber optic cable connection, or maybe through satellites if they are geographically far apart from each other. So networks are being spread across the entire world. Almost all the nodes of a cluster can now connect to each other. And then, and looking from the cryptocurrency point of view, now financial transaction can easily and seamlessly happen among these nodes of the clusters. Though cryptocurrency has not been regulated and legalized by the Indian government and Chinese government as of now, but then future is there. Definitely within a year or 2 years, the government will come up with for proper rules and regulation. They will draft a bill and then table it in parliament, and then finally we'll have the rules that will govern the way the cryptocurrency is being transacted on the web. And that's true also. Government has done a right thing by banning the cryptocurrencies in an open market, because as a government, we need to safeguard the money of the hard earned money of the individual. Because nowadays you see a lot many hacking happens, the phone hacking happens, your sometimes all your apps are deployed on your phones and your phone get hacked, then the entire amount get debited from your bank accounts. So to protect the customer's interest, it's better that proper billing should be happen, proper drafting and regulation of the bill should happen, and then only it should be rolled out, so the customer don't lose money in the cryptocurrency markets. But the future is there. Definitely they will be used, maybe 2022 or 2023, as and when the government feels yes, now it's a time to legalize the market for the cryptocurrencies. Now when we talk of the Ethereum, the related words, we have got a gas and the gas trackers. So let's look for the official website of the Ethereum, because what they say about the Ethereum. So we always say it helps in designing and issuing cryptocurrencies and tradable digital tokens. That was the basic concept what Vitalik Buterin started off with the Ethereum concepts. So is the site visible? Bitsonblock.net.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So it's
Yes,
a
sir.
general introduction to Ethereum. If you're doing for the very first time, yeah. This is also a book we have got in our course. It says Bitcoins on blockchain. So if you get a hard copy or soft copy of it, you can always refer to it. Now, let's look at the basic definition and the official website of it. Basic definition is quite simple. Ethereum is a software. So one should be very clear. We are dealing with a software. running on a network of computers. This is what we say networks. Clusters are existing, machines are there, and they're all connected to each other. So network can be, I can have a centralized network, I can have a distributed network, I can have the peer-to-peer network as what we saw in the last slide, that ensure that data and the small computer programs. Now, what kind of data we are talking of? The user data. For example, when we discuss the blockchain schematic diagram, so we discuss the fiber data, financial data, insurance data, banking sector data, educational records, electronic medical records of the patients. This is what the real data is, which I want to protect using any of the hashing technique of the available in the blockchain, the MD5 or the SHA. And the small computer programs, what are these small computer programs? Nothing but the smart contracts. So contract have been already there for so many years. What we have paper based contract. For example, if you want to construct a house, or if you want to buy a house, you always enter a contract with another vendor, another party. So contract can be between two parties or multiple number of the parties. So in a blockchain terminology, we call these programs as a smart contract, because smart means they are digitally connected. They are secure contracts, secure using the hashing techniques. So that's why we use the word smart contracts. So they're all globally connected. The contracts can be deployed across scenarios. So your client can be based in maybe in India, and the contract is getting executed in US. So I can have a web connectivity and digitally connectivity, and they're all secure. So security is most important from the blockchain perspective, are replicated and processed on all the computers of the given network without a central coordinator. Now, this is what the USP of the blockchain is. Blockchain says don't have a single centralized autonomy. The traditional banking system says have a single centralized bank. Bank will lay down the policies, they will draft the rules and regulation, which will be followed by everyone around the world. But here they work on autonomy. They say we will not have a centralized coordinator. So they work on concept of decentralization. Just like we have got three basic principles of blockchain technology: decentralization, immutability, and transparency. So three basic principles. So decentralization is very, very important for the blockchain to prosper. And those countries or government of those countries who don't believe in decentralization, their blockchain and the cryptocurrencies cannot flourish, because they work only on the concept of the autonomy. Give the power to the people. Don't create any rules and regulation. Just like in IT industry, we have got the compiler driven languages and the scripting languages. Compiler driven languages says you create a variable, you declare a variable, you allocate a memory to the variable, and then you start using a variable. So four things have to be done before you actually use the variable. Scripting languages said no need to create a variable first, no need to declare a variable first, no need to allocate the memory to a variable first. Just create the variable on fly basis. Don't hard code them as character, integer, byte, boolean. So there are two worlds. One is a compiler driven language, one is a scripting languages, and both of them work in a different opposite direction. Same way we have got the traditional banking systems, which are strong, robust, reliable, and but here we work on the concept of the autonomy. So don't have a single centralized thing. And the vision is to create the unstoppable, censorship resistant. Now this is another problem. They don't want to be get controlled by anything. So no government should control them, no Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology should control them. They don't need to follow any policies, rules and regulations. So means they are working in a chaos. It could create a mess in a larger perception as such. Self-sustaining, they want to work on their own. They don't want any support from any of the financial support from any of the government, central or the state government. Let the market driven forces decides on the sustainability of these kind of the softwares. And the decentralized world computer, because again the onus is on decentralization. They don't want to remain in a very controlled environment. They want to work in a free market space where no regulation exists. And the official website, let's go to that, what Ethereum says, ethereum.org. So if you can look at this scenario here, it's more like a mall kind of a scenario, a cyber cafe kind of a scenario, where everyone is enjoying the way he wants to live a life. No rules, no regulations. If you want to go to online shopping in a mall, you can do that. If you want to sit and just enjoy and relax in a mall, you can do that. Or if you want to go for if you're a foodie, and if you want to enjoy, you go to any of the outlets. So it's no rules and regulation. Actually, that's what the basic philosophy behind it. So again, that has a plus and that has a minus. So everything comes with a its own set. Platter comes with its own set of the pluses and minuses. So there are advantages also and the decentralized also. So it's a community run technology because, and when we say community runs means everyone is a part of it, a global blockchain network. So you may be the first creator of it, but then you can spread it and you make everyone a part of it. Just like again, we have got a just like those of you who might be working in a Unix kind of environment. We have got a Ubuntu, Fedora, Gentoo. They're all open source. Matlab means you want to fiddle with the operating system, you can change the code of the kernel. So one is a open source community, and one again is a proprietary software. Proprietary software means the software rolled out by the IBM, by the Microsoft, by the Apple. So these are the proprietary companies. They don't share their codes. The codes are written by the developers in the company, and they're earning millions of dollars. The Google is also a part of them. So though Google has an Android also, which is by and large, so Google is following a mixed approach, some proprietary and some in the open source. But Microsoft is a pure proprietary company. IBM to a larger extent is a pure proprietary company. So they're not community driven. Community means the companies are not backing it up. The companies are not supporting up. But then, just like we have seen the case of Java programming language, Java was a part of the open source community, though started by Sun Microsystem and created by James Gosling. But then after 10 years, means they came with the first version in 1991, and by 2001 they got bankrupt because there was no money to be paid to developers who were working for the growth of the Java programming language. So almost all the developers, all the technical evangelists who were working with the Sun Microsystem, they left the Sun Microsystem and joined the other companies like the Apple, the the Google, the IBM, the Microsoft. So company became bankrupt. They were not able to pay, and now the Java is on its own. So Java will survive depending on its merit. Though now Oracle is taking care of it, but again Oracle is a database company, so they have got their own interest in big data tools and technologies. So how long and till what point Java will survive, nobody knows. But yes, the programming language is good. It will survive on the basis of its own merit. So it's not Java is a community driven language, those backed by the Oracle as such. But in the case of Ethereum and many other open source languages, like we got Fedora, Ubuntu, Gentoo, they're all open source kernels, the Linux based operating system, all community driven. So they've got multiple number of the blogs and the open source helps groups are there where you can share your concern, you can share your problems, and they will help you out in finding out the amicable solution. So it's a community-run technology powering the cryptocurrency Ether, what we call ETH, the world's first smallest, minutest cryptocurrency, but very important cryptocurrency, and thousands of the dApps, the decentralized application. So getting started, they display something about the wallet, get ethers, start building, use a decentralized application. So again, they talk about what is Ethereum for the very first time. Ethereum is a technology that is home to digital money, global payments, and application. Now, this is where the real concern of the government is. We must have certain rules that govern these online transactions. Otherwise, if you leave it to the people, then hackers will come in and hackers will create chaos, resulting in the loss of money, of the hard-earned money of the common people. Because we know professional hackers, they can do anything, they can go up to any extent. Few weeks back, even the prime minister's office, the Twitter account got hacked. So what they can do, nobody can actually say. The world of professional hacking is very, very smart people who are governing the, even you got something deep web and dark web, which are non-legalized. So I won't go beyond a point to tell about them. So, but there hackers can play a havoc with these global payments, and governments don't want that. Yes, the hard-earned money of the people should be lost out. So the community has built a booming digital economy, bold new ways for creator to earn online and much more. That's fine. The people who are earning, people who are creators, because you are also on the MCA final year, think big. Those of you who got entrepreneurship skills, try going for a startup in the years to come, because nowadays the industry is putting a lot of money on the basis of novelty, innovation, and creativity. So we require a young mind who can think out of the box. They should not be have the stale, monotonous thinking. What is already there, we have already seen. But now, what next? What next level you can think out? So think of the problems and then build up a proper solution for it. There's a very good nowadays serial that is also coming on the television. I was looking another. It's called Shark Tank, where many young entrepreneurs are now coming up with their own ideas, and then they launch their own startup. Now, startup requires funding, so you need to reach out to venture capitalists, the VCs, and the investors who can put up money on your idea. So, idea has to be strong enough. So that is what we say. Creators are required. The creators are one who has a creative thinking, who can think out of the box, a new innovative kind of thing. So those of you who got a flair of creative thinking, just explore it, because not everyone is blessed with the creative thinking. Some have, some don't have. It's just like a logic in our IT industry. If you have a logic, it's good. If you don't have a logic, you can't generate a logic. You cannot create a logic. So, for example, a BTech computer science can have a very poor logic, but a person who is just doing arts, maybe a humanities, a social science, politics, he may have a very good logic. So, logic is something you are partially blessed with, and then depending on your mathematical ability and the algorithm building skills, you can improve and improvise your logic, and then you can enjoy writing the programs. Programming languages should not be not a constraint. It's your own logic, how you do the coding, how you can think of the problem statement, how you can find an amicable solution to it. So creators are very much required for any kind of the field, not only the blockchain technology. And it's open to everyone wherever you are in the world, and what you need is a web-based connectivity. That's it, and now you are connected to it. So you can go to this official website. I will share the URL. They will discuss about the financial system also, where they talk about the DeFi system, Ethernet backed decentralized finance system. So everywhere you will look out the word decentralization, every now and then, every second or fourth of sentence will talk about the concept of the decentralization. So Ethereum decentralization DeFi system never sleeps or discriminates. Now again, the discrimination, they look from the point here everyone is fair, everyone is equal, everyone is transparent. So decentralization, and no, there's no discrimination also. So with just a web connectivity, you can send, receive, borrow, earn interest, and even stream funds anywhere in the world. And then if you're interested, you can go more and discuss about the Ethereum's decentralized finance system. So it's here DeFi. So coming back to the presentation, yeah. Now, when you do a transaction on the web, somewhere we have what we say a digital counter or a means to record the transaction and to give the put value on it. That is something called the gas. Now, gas is something how you value the transaction. It's more like if you're you would have seen in your own home also, with your own parents also, if they want to reward somebody, like you, when you were in a school kid, maybe your parents, if you do math for 2 hours a day, because every one of you would have also been preparing for JEE main in class 12th to enter into the BTech program, because most of the science graduate with the one of the PCM appear for the JEE main. Some get good rank, some don't get, but then life doesn't stop, life goes on. Depending on your area of interest, you make a career, depending on your hard work and perseverance also. So parents say, if you study 2 hours, I will give you a chocolate. And if you go to the school daily basis, I will give you, maybe I will buy you a bicycle. So they are putting a reward on your action. So if you do something, you get rewarded. It's something like this. So cryptocurrency and blockchain technology also follow the same thing. And here we value a transaction with the help of something called the gas. So gas, let us take through the official statement of it, how they define it. So it says, it's again on the official Ethereum portal. Gas is essential to Ethereum network. It is a fuel that allows it to operate in the same way car needs a gasoline to run. So you put a fuel into the car and the car start running. Nowadays we have got electric car also, so that's a different thing. But then gas is something more. They've taken the example very similar to the word gas. What does a gas mean? So gasoline in India we call it the petrol and diesel and kerosene. Abroad in the US and Europe, they widely use the word as gas only. So the term came from there only. And what is a gas? Gas refers to the unit that measures the amount of the computational effort required to execute a specific operation on the Ethereum network. Very well written statement, and that includes everything about a gas. This is actually what the gas is. It measures the amount of the computational effort required to execute a specific operation. The example what I took was that only. Parent says you study 2 hours maths and you will get 90% marks in maths. That means the effort is study 2 hours maths per day. What is the end result? You will get 90% marks in class 12th or class 10th, as such, because parents want you to do good in life. And I always believe and I always say that we should always uh, appreciate the hard work of our parents first. Uh, Always have a something called attitude of gratitude. They have all hard earned, and then they have put the money and brought you up to this level as such. So always respect your parents first. And since the only free thing available in the world is, I always say two things: the one is a nature, and one is a parents, because they have been gifted to you. You didn't ask for it, but then parents brought you to in this world, and nature has already provided elements to it. So we should always respect them and appreciate them, and then we'll equally get good returns in back, because they both want our betterment. None of them wants we should, because they are not in a rat race with us. They will always think of a betterment. Nature will never think anything against the human beings as such. The human beings keep on exploiting the nature to a larger extent. All of us do that, and especially in the time of COVID, we have exploited nature to a larger extent. Though for our survival, we have been using the mask and the sanitizer bottle and the gloves, but then after every day usage, we dump them. So many number of tons and tons of sanitizer bottles, millions of masks, daily basis. So much amount of medical waste, syringes, RT-PCR testing, COVID testing, the vaccination drive. So much amount of syringes, bottles. So much amount of, in the last 2 years, so much amount of medical waste has got created. How will the nature absorb it? Nature means either they will get dumped into the soil or thrown in the water. They will ultimately reach to the rivers, seas, and ponds. So there they will get accumulated because they're not biodegradable. So nature will not accept them. So ultimately, nature will throw it back to the human beings. That's what the nature philosophy is. If you give something what the nature cannot absorb, they will throw it back to human beings. So again, we might have another catastrophe, maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, if we create a things which are not biodegradable in nature. So here each Ethereum transaction requires computational resources. To execute each transaction require a fee. Gas refer to the fee required to conduct a transaction on the Ethereum network successfully. So how much amount of the fee will be required to carry out a transaction on the global blockchain network? That's what the gas word says is. So the appropriate definition is absolutely right here. It refers to the unit. So it's a unit. Just like we have got a unit for length, when we want to measure a length, we say kilometer, meter, centimeter, millimeter. Same way, gas is a unit here. And what it is going to measure? It is going to measure the amount of the computational effort which is required to execute a specific operation on the Ethereum network. That is what the fundamental behind the gas philosophy is. Now we also got something called gas trackers, because once you have got a units in place, now you need to monitor. Just like we have got a, when we say Indian national rupees INR, now in India, the unit for measurement of currency is rupees. Same way in US, the unit for measurement of the currency is dollars. That's how they trade it. So for something called gas trackers, which helps in carrying out the transactions on the web. They have got the digital markets. So it's like a gas tracker again on the Etherscan. So GWI again is a unit, and we have got a multiple number of the transaction happening on the web, even on the daily basis, even on hourly and weekly basis. So we've got a gas guzzlers, gas spenders, and who is spending how much amount of money for carrying out financial transaction on the web. So these are multiple number of the vendors, which is all happening in the real time environment on the gas tracker. So many companies are there who are carrying out the financial transaction using a Etherscan. So this is a Etherscan. It shows here Etherscan is a block explorer and analytics platform for Ethereum decentralized smart contract. Smart contract we'll just discuss what are they. But Etherscan is a real-time website which monitors the amount of the gas being spent by various financial vendors who are doing an online transaction using any of the cryptocurrencies. Ether is one of them. So we can look at Ethereum native currency Ether ETH. That was a own cryptocurrencies by the Ethereum networks, introduced by the Vitalik Buterin. So he was the first person behind the scene who introduced for the very first time, and it's all happening in right, the transaction happening on 5th January. We can look at the time here. It's all happening in the real time scenario, and then continuously monitor how much is the gas price going up and down for any kind of the financial transaction. But in a smart contract, if I'm designing my own smart contract, I can put a gas price on my own network also. This is for the global blockchain network. But yes, if I'm creating my own local blockchain network, I can fix the gas price for the transaction which I'm going to create or going to establish within my own network. That is also perfectly possible. Now, we come to the next part that talks of the smart contracts. Now, smart contract initially also we discussed, where we discussed the concept of the blockchain virtual lab introduced by the IITs and IIIT, which I think you might have done also and explored also. So, few experiments they gave on this. That I remember one of the experiment was that if you transfer $1,000 to a person and you create him the VIP, so you are crediting the money into his account and then you declare the person as VIP. So $1,000 was just a transaction where you can put it 1 million or 1 billion. That was just a concept, and how you create a smart contract on the basis of that. Another example I remember which we took earlier was insurance company. For example, if you got a shop and an office and you have insured the premises of your shop and your office, and if certain fire happens or any of the natural calamity or mishap happens, then immediately the smart contract will get executed and the money will be credited to your bank accounts. So contracts make sure that that is not dependent on a particular person, not but they are digitally created. Contractually in India we got IRDA, Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, that monitors these transaction on the web, and that makes sure that customers money is not misused, and the premium which the customer pays, maybe for the life insurance or the medical insurance, is protected. Otherwise we might have a problem that the person's money might get lost and in the process, and he might have to pay more premium which was desired for. Now, to ensure that the contract successfully get executed and the customer gets the money back in case of any eventuality at his home. For example, if you are doing for a life insurance, and if the person passes away for any of the medical reason or a natural death, then immediately his policy should get executed and he should be made the payment. So he should get the money. His family members, his dependent, should get the money instantly as such. So contract between the person and a company. Now again, we go back to the Ethereum portal, the official portal for the smart contract. So it was last edited very recently, around just 12, 14 days back on December 22. So it talks about the smart contract. It's a contract which is simply a program that runs on Ethereum blockchain. It's a collection of code, its function, and data, which is state, that reside a specific address on the Ethereum blockchain. So it's a program where it will run on the blockchain network, backed up by the Ethereum DePIN network. It's a collection of code, so code need to be written, and when we write the code, it's a function, the behavior of a program. So that's why they have written the word as function. And this data, the state of the data. So when you create a variable, and there are now three kind of variable which I create in a program. We have got a global variables, we have got a local variables, we have got a static variables. So global and static variables are allocated to the memory when the class loader loads the memory into the class loader loads the program into the memory. So you make a either you make a call to parameterize constructor in a class, or a default constructor will fire up and it will allocate a memory to the global variables and static variable declared within a program. And in a programming language like Java and C Sharp, the automatic initialization of the integer variable takes place. So we don't get a junk value or garbage value for the variables. But in the case of programming language C and C++, no default automatic initialization to the global and static variable take place. So it's the duty of the programmer to allocate the memory to these variables. But in Java and C Sharp, they go for the default initialization. Just like integer variable will be initialized to value 0, float variable will be initialized to a value 0.0f, and if you got a character variable to initialize to a value backslash u 4 times 0, that is what we call null in Java. So default initialization of the variable takes place depending on which programming language you are using for the designing and the execution of the smart contracts. So when we talk of the data, we are talking of the value of a variable. So what is the state of the variable at that particular point of time? Now, local variables will be allocated the memory whenever your function call happens. So when you make a call to a user-defined function in a class of a programming language, then only the memory will be allocated to the local variables, and then you can initialize the value to a local variable, and then you can use it. And then once the function execution gets over, again the memory will be taken off. So it's a deallocation of the memory happens. So when we talk of C and C, when we talk of the C++, we talk of the constructors and destructors. When we talk of the Java and the C#.NET, we talk of the garbage collection mechanisms, because their automatic default cycle happens of the Java virtual machine in Java and CLR, common language runtime, in C#.NET, that takes the task of this allocation and the deallocation of the memory to the variable. So two important things when you are designing a smart contract, you have to take care of the code which you write. The functionality of the contract is very important. And the various variable you declare, the state of the variable, the data, how many number of variable you declare, what is the usage of this variable, what are the type of these variables, means character, integer, float, byte, boolean, or which is the category of these variable, local, global, static. So everything has to be defined that resides at a specific address on the Ethereum blockchain. So you create a variable within your own smart contract, and a smart contract will be deployed. So I will share the example how to do it on Remix IDE, how I can write a very simple program and then deploy on the part of the Ethereum blockchain network. So smart